Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage, I tell.
All right. Hey guys, it's Mark Eitel here, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And friends, you are in the right place. If you've got questions, frustrations, curiosities, you want answers to your questions so you can go out and make better real estate and mortgage decisions for you and your family. That's what this show is all about. Guys, we've got an awesome one lined up for you this week. Here's a little tease. This is the actual headline, guys. New home sales fall in August. Same data set, different headline. New home sales are up in August. What? What the heck is going on? Guys, we're going to dive into that. Hey, before we get started, if you've got questions or comments, call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline. Jen, my producer, is womanning the hotline, and she will get your questions on the air. If you prefer to shoot us an email, just head over to mrmortgageradio.com. That's mrmortgageradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, click that email icon, and you can send your questions in via email, and she will read them on the air for you. But guys, let's dive right in. Those are two actual headlines from the same data that was reported. New home sales fall in August. Same data, new home sales are up in August. How is anybody supposed to have any confidence in what they're reading anymore? Well, guys, both of these headlines are true. And that's what's very interesting and very frustrating about the data. From July of 2023, month over month, to August of 2023, new home sales fell 8.7%. In August of 2022, compared to August of 2023. So year over year, they're up almost 6%, logging a 5.8% increase. So how do you interpret that data? And it got me thinking, guys, no wonder everybody is scratching their head. Hey, I grew up in Florida, born and raised in sunny South Florida. I had an amazing childhood spent on the beach because we was poor. We was poor people. We didn't have a ton of money. My mom worked her butt off as a single mom, 2, sometimes 3 jobs. Hats off to my mom, who is still a rock star today. But she raised us the only way she knew how. And one of those ways was keeping these feral kids in line by taking them to the beach and letting them run wild and exhaust themselves every weekend. And why did we do that? Well, guys, the beach was free back then. You could park for free. She brought a big cooler full of lunch and soft drinks, and we had all the little plastic tractors and the buckets, and I eventually started surfing when I got older, so I loved the beach. I absolutely loved the beach. But I also enjoyed watching the new people show up at the beach and try to gauge where to put their blanket. They're watching the tide, and the wave comes crashing up, and you see them step back a little bit before they put their blanket down, and then the subsequent wave crashes up, and it doesn't come up as far. Oh, well, maybe the tide's going out. Maybe that was just a blip. Maybe that was a big home sales number, and we're actually in a downward trend. So they move their blanket a little closer. The next wave comes up. Everything looks safe. Well, then here comes another big wave and knocks their blanket and their toys and their cooler all over the place. Why? Because they were watching the waves and not the tide. They were looking too closely at the data that was in front of them. Here's another example. Hold your hand out in front of you. Do this with me, Jen. Okay, go ahead. She's laughing at me, guys. Hold your hand out 90 degrees in front of you and hold up your index finger like you're saying, you're number one, like I am in my fantasy football league this week. Thank you very much. You're number one. All right, look at your fingernail. Now pull that all the way back. Come on. You can see it even closer. Pull it back till it's on the bridge of your nose, right between your eyebrows. Well, you can't see your finger anymore. It's too close for you to see it. And that's what I'm getting at sometimes when we dive into this data. If you're a REIT manager or you're BlackRock and you're buying apartment buildings and you're this humongous conglomerate of investment pools that's buying single family homes, and you're trying to look at finite trends to see if something moves an eighth or a quarter point to trigger a buy or a sell, right? That's what these big portfolio managers in the stock market are doing. Then yeah, maybe look that close. But if you're deciding whether to re-sign your lease or to buy a home, maybe you're looking too closely. You're missing the opportunity. I got into a very spirited conversation, and I'll try to find the recording of it and share it to the Facebook page. Not because I was right, but because it was interesting. It was last August, I believe it was. I'll try to find this. And I was in a conversation, podcast episode with a gentleman who manages a small REIT, real estate investment trust, and they own small multifamily buildings and, fourplexes, small players, not BlackRock. And I'm a big supply and demand disciple. Guys, that's the only thing that controls anything. If you are at the bar, it's supply and demand. If you're at the grocery store, it's supply and demand. If you're in real estate, it's supply and demand. So I stand firmly on the belief that governs the values of anything, supply and demand. And last year at this time, we were in an uptick in interest rates, right? We were in an increasing environment in mortgage rates. And he cited data trends from January of 2022 and was really just, swatting me over the forehead with all of his models of depreciation and how I was wrong and I was giving people bad advice. And I take that a little bit personally because I'm blessed each week to talk to a lot of people on this show. And I just stood my ground on supply and demand. Well, here we are a year later, and the median home prices nationally, they did go down incrementally, very small increments for about 4 months. We've recovered from all of that. And nationally, the median is up about 4%. In some markets, considerably more. There's still double-digit appreciation in a lot of Florida markets. It's crazy. My point in sharing that, again, isn't to dislocate my shoulder to pat myself on the back. It's because somebody last year renewed their lease based on someone else's advice. And if you're in Florida and the median home price is $450 and your appreciation was 10%, you cost yourself $45,000. And I don't care how hard you look, I haven't found a side gig that will put an extra $45,000 in the plus column on your net worth sheet by not doing anything other than coming home and paying your bills each month. So guys, we are still in a ridiculously confusing market. Supply is so tight that even at this diminished demand because of interest rates, there's still more demand than supply. I read a statistic in a NAR report this week that said 72%, and I'll post this to the Facebook group, of new listings sell in the first 20 days. Guys, that just blew my mind that we're still seeing that kind of absorption in this market. Crazy stuff. But guys, you hear the music. You know what that means? That's my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight. On the other side of this very short break, we're going to dive into your questions. We're going to put the beach talk and the philosophical fingernail examples on hold, and we're going to dive into your questions when we come back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
So you think interest rates have gotten too high to refi? Well, not so fast. There are several reasons people refinance. Sure, lowering your interest rate is one, but there's debt consolidation, home improvement, unexpected medical expenses, pulling out some equity to go buy an investment property. Heck, I even know of one guy who refinanced his house so he could buy his mistress a condo. But let's jump back to debt consolidation for a minute. I'm working with a client right now. His name is Ben. He's going to refinance his house, pay off a host of credit cards and 2 truck payments. And yes, his mortgage interest rate is going to go up, but his monthly expenses are going to go down significantly. And that monthly savings is going to get he and his family back on track. Guys, if you've got questions, check us out at MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. My name is Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005. I host the Mr. Mortgage Show, and we are always here and happy to help. Check us out at MrMortgageRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and this is the Mr. Mortgage Show. Guys, if you have questions or comments, just call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline. Jen is womaning the hotline, and she'll get your questions on the air. Or shoot us over an email, and you can do that by visiting mrmortgageradio.com. That's mrmortgageradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, click the email icon, and you can shoot your questions over to her. That way, she will read them on the air for you. Hey, guys, we were finishing up that opening segment, and I threw a little bit of data at you, and I just wanted to briefly kind of clean that up. So I've got the article in front of me. 72% of homes, as I mentioned, sold in August were under contract in 20 days. That's nuts. Within 20 days, 72% of the homes that entered the market in August were under contract. That's crazy. Sales are down 15.3%, but we are looking at a national median of 4% appreciation, which is mind-blowing in the face of everything. It's supply and demand, guys. That is all that there is to it, supply and demand. And here's a big one. 27% of purchases, all property types in the residential space, 27% in August were cash sales. So those people don't care what interest rates are. If it makes sense, they're pulling the triggers. So while everybody is pointing their fingers at prices and interest rates, guys, supply and demand is still in control of the market. And for the time being, it looks like prices are sticking. So I hope that helps. If you have questions around that, just shoot them our way and we will get you on the air. But Jen, throw me the first question. Are you ready? Okay, go ahead.
Brent sent this. I'm trying to buy a condo, but my bank says the unit can't be financed because of no warranty. It's 25 years old. How can they expect it would have a warranty? Does this make sense?
Hey, Brett, that's a great question. So I think what's happened is there's a little confusion because nobody is requiring a building to have a warranty like a new home would, right? Typically would have a 1-year warranty. On a 25-year-old condo, there are no expectations for that, but there are underwriting terms, warrantable or non-warrantable, which often get confused with warranty. Now, if the condo is warrantable, then there's a wide variety of financing options. The conventional loans are available on a condo that's warrantable. On a non-warrantable condo, there are loans available, but you're going to have to put a larger down payment down because there's more risk associated to the bank. So let me back up a minute and explain the difference between those two because it's super confusing. The title warrantable is issued to a project after an underwriter in a conventional loan process has the opportunity to review the condo questionnaire. So if you're financing a condo, part of your application process requires that the association answer all the questions in this questionnaire and disclose the data requested. The data is budget numbers, forecasted maintenance issues. Is there any deferred maintenance? Are there any big assessments that are coming? How much money is in reserves? All of that is analyzed to make sure that the condo project, the association, is diligently managing in a fiscally responsible way the asset of this association, right? The buildings are being maintained. The grounds are being maintained. There's enough money in the kitty to put a new roof on in 10 years. Well, guys, after the Champlain Towers collapsed in the Miami Beach area a couple years ago, there were more questions added to the questionnaire. And they were scrutinized a little more. And there's another wave of changes coming the beginning of next year. So the challenge for a lot of these associations has been that they're managed by the residents of the building. And most of those residents are trying to keep the dues as low as possible. They're kicking the can down the road. They don't want to increase the dues because a lot of people say, heck, I'm not going to be here in 15 years. That roof's not going to be my problem. I don't want to put that money in reserves. Well, coming the beginning of next year, there's going to be a mandated percentage that has to be in reserves Or regardless of the answers to all those other questions, the condo is going to be deemed non-warrantable, which would then put you in the other financing category, which requires a larger down payment. Typically 25% down, sometimes 20, but most of the time 25% down is required for a non-warrantable condo. And then that questionnaire process is completely skipped because the bank figures with 25% equity, their risks are hedged by that equity. So warrantable versus non-warrantable is big in the condo space. It gets super confusing. I hope that helps. If it's non-warrantable, it's going to require a larger down payment. If it is warrantable, then conventional financing is typically available. So brilliant question. I appreciate that one. Hey, Jen, can we get another in?
Chris sent this email. I own a rental property that I'd like to refinance and move into as my primary home. I'll be selling my current house after I move. Is this doable? Can I add my girlfriend to the title at the same time?
Crazy Chris putting his girlfriend on the title before they're married. Oh boy, roll the dice, brother. No, I'm kidding. Yes, yes, and yes. This is doable. We see this often. Sometimes people will buy a rental property with the intent to move into it later because it's just a great deal. It's the condo on the ocean. It's the house on the golf course. And they'll rent it for a few years until they're ready to retire or relocate. And now they've already got that house locked in the neighborhood at the price they wanted. So yes, you can do this. You can refinance that property, do a cash out refi, turn it into your primary, add your girlfriend to the deed at the same time. You could even add her to the loan if you wanted to, and then sell your current primary. There's some documentation steps that have to be done, but it is definitely doable. We don't see it every day, but we do it pretty often. And a lot of times it's around that strategy where somebody is buying their future retirement home now. We see it a lot where people are buying condos in Florida to move into later. The most recent experience I had was a gentleman in Florida bought a golf course home in North Carolina to relocate to when he retires because he wants to play golf every day in the brisk Carolina, falls, I guess? I don't know. I'm from Florida, so it's always summer to me. Hey, Chris, thanks for that question. I hope that helps. You can do it. You can even put her on the deed. So anyway, guys, you hear the music. You know what that means. That's my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight on the other side of this short break. We'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Raise your hand if you are freaked out by what's happening in the banking world. Well, no, put your hands back on the steering wheel. It's all starting to feel like a house of cards. And what about that $17 billion, yes, billion with a B, dollars worth of bondholder money that was lost in that Credit Suisse takeover? Right now, I'm hearing more and more people talk about a flight to safety, and they're looking at gold and silver and other precious metals, but also rental property. Yep, income-producing rental property is starting to become sexy again. Guys, we've got an amazing loan program called the Landlord Loan. It's an easy way to acquire rental property. If you've got good credit and the assets, we don't even look at your personal income. We look at the income produced by the property. Assuming that it supports the debt, boom, you're a landlord. Check us out at MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. My name is Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005, and my team and I are here and happy to help. Check us out at MrMortgageRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and this is the Mr. Mortgage Show. Guys, if you have questions or comments, just call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline. Jen is womanning the hotline, and she will get your questions on the air. If you prefer, you can shoot us an email by visiting MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, click the email icon, and you can shoot your questions over to Jen that way. But I know we've got some back there, so let's throw it right to Jen and keep the questions coming. What do you have, Jen?
Sharon sent this question. We looked at the REC refi calculator. I think it makes sense. Can we take a little extra money out as part of the refi? I didn't see a place for that online. Thanks.
Hey, Sharon, that's a great question. I know that is not included in the calculator, so you didn't miss it. It's not there. But to answer your question, yes, you can still benefit from the REC, R-E-C, reduce, eliminate, and consolidate. And guys, that REC refi is the refi loan that is designed to lower your monthly expenses. REC stands for reduce, eliminate, and consolidate. And that calculator is at REC, R-E-C, refi, R-E-F-I, recrefi.com. So got that shameless plug out of the way, but no, Sharon, you didn't miss it. And you can take cash out. You can pay off all the debts that you need to and take cash out as long as you have enough equity and your debt to income ratio support the loan amount. And a lot of people are going to say, Mark, how much equity can I take out? The term tappable equity, you'll hear it thrown around on the news, that refers to 80% of your current property's value minus your existing loan amount. So if you're going to do the REC refi and your property is worth $500,000, you'll be able to borrow $400,000 and still meet that 80% threshold. Again, assuming that your income supports the debt at that higher level. So 80% of the property's value is where that REC refi loan can go up to. So I hope that helps, Sharon. That's a great question. We do it all the time. People will pay off all of their debts and take a little bit of cash out and still wind up lowering their overall monthly expenses. So great question. If you need any more information about that or anyone else is curious, check out recrefi.com or just give us a call or shoot us an email. All right, Jen, throw me another one.
Andre is asking, I'm in a catch-22. I found a great deal on a house. I have a ton of equity in my current house. I need the equity to buy the new house. I tried for a HELOC, but the bank said no because I'll be selling the current house. How can I make this work?
Hey, Andre, this is an easy one. Confusing because you're right. It's a catch-22. You got a load of equity. You want to buy the new place. You found the new place before you're ready to sell the current place and you're stuck, right? You need to make a move quickly here to secure this opportunity. You can do a bridge loan. So you can borrow against your current property's equity and use that for the down payment on the new property. And then you'll have up to a year, in most instances, sometimes two, but most of them are capped at a year, to get that first property sold. So it's kind of like the equity line that you were thinking of, right? Just use the equity line, tap it, pull the equity out and buy the new property. Except this is designed exactly for what you want to do, and the same lender does the bridge and the financing on the new property. So that's the difference, right? You're not going to the bank for the bridge and then a different mortgage company for the mortgage. To use us as an example, we would arrange both loans at the same time. So I hope it helps. You're going to do a bridge loan on your equity position in your current property and buy the new property with that equity as a down payment. So I hope that helps. And again, if you need more information, please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to walk you through in detail how it works. Hey, Jen, let's get another question on the air.
Here's a question from Nina and Paul. Can you please explain how we can use a reverse mortgage to buy a home? We are close to downsizing, and this seems like a great option. Thank you.
Hey, Nina, I love this question because you hear me all the time talk about find the opportunity, not the obstacles. There's opportunity in this market. I'm one of the contrarians who say people have never had more buying power because they've got all this equity. Just like the last caller, Andre, has all this equity in his current property. So using some of that equity and downsizing and using a reverse mortgage, I think is a brilliant strategy if you don't want to have a monthly payment and you don't want to pay cash for that property and use up all of the equity. We all want a little bit of money in the bank, right? We all want that nest egg. So how this would work, assuming there's enough equity in your current property, you would put approximately, and it depends on your age, it could be a little more, could be a little less, about 50% down on the new house. Then you could move into the new house with a reverse mortgage from the beginning and never have to make a monthly mortgage payment, and then the rest of the money you can put in the bank. Do whatever you want with it. But a lot of people are looking at that as an option. The biggest concern for a lot of the seniors that I talk to is monthly cash flow. And that's where the reverse mortgage is an amazing tool, because it allows you to take some equity out of the property right now, or you can get a monthly stipend, or you can have a credit line set up against it, but you have access to your money and you don't have a monthly mortgage payment. You still pay your annual taxes and your annual insurance, but you're not writing that check to the bank every month. And a lot of people are finding that freedom of not having that monthly expense is all they need to make a difference for a comfortable lifestyle. So it works the same way. It's all going to be predicated on how much equity you have. And if you can put half down on the new property, then you're in a position where you're not going to make that monthly mortgage payment. A reverse to purchase is a great, great option for a lot of people, and very few people even know it exists. So I appreciate that question. That is a very, very good question. Hey, Jen, let's get another one on the air if we can.
Cynthia emailed this. Last week you talked about rate buy downs, but I heard a mortgage guy online say it's better to wait and then refi next year. Now I'm confused. Any advice?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm a bigger fan of making the best use of today's circumstance and not betting on the unknown. So what I mean by that is, if you can get a seller contribution to buy your interest rate down, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? You know, a lot of people, I mean, we opened the show. We were talking about a contentious conversation I had where people were telling me this time, this year, we were going to be in a descending market environment, and we're not. You know, I don't know that we're going to be in a refinance cycle this time next year. So do yourself a favor and just, you know, be cautious who you listen to. Use the mortgage calculators that are out there. Go to mrmortgageradio.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, click that mortgage calculator link, and play with the differences in what you could buy the rate down to versus paying and refinancing later. And don't forget, guys, there's no free refinances out there. You're going to pay a second set of closing costs. So if you can set yourself up to not need that refinance until it's super advantageous in the future, I think that's the better way to go. But that's just me. I don't like to bet on the unknown, and people have been wrong for the last 24 months about interest rates. I'm not sure I suddenly think that these guys are doing anything other than encouraging you to do this so they can do a refinance with you in the future. So make sure you're not getting self-serving advice from the gurus. That's all I've got to say on that. And if you want to have a conversation about it, I'll point out the good, the bad, the ugly. We can run some scenarios for you so you can make an informed decision at very least. So I appreciate that question. Hey guys, you hear the music? You know what that means? That's my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight on the other side of this short break. We'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and I'm going to interrupt this commercial break to ask you for a favor. If you know any friends, family, coworkers, or the guy in front of you at the grocery line who's talking or thinking about buying or selling or refinancing real estate, I'm hoping I can count on you to help me spread the word, introduce them to me, to the team. You can do that by simply sharing MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Guys, it's Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005. Now, back to the commercials.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and this is the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you heard the man, 855-462-7292. That's the Anytime hotline. Call or text 855-462-7292, or head over to mrmortgageradio.com. That's mrmortgageradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page, click that email icon, and you can send us your questions via email. But speaking of your questions, I went a little long, so I'm going to try to get through as many of these as possible. Hey, Jen, throw me another question.
Joella is asking, if we get a 3-2-1 buy down, do we have to wait until the rates adjust before we can refinance?
Hey, Joella, no, you don't. you can refinance anytime during that period? That's actually a really good question. And guys, let me throw this out there. I'm going to put together a little explainer, and it'll be, if you want to check it out, go to 321buydown.com, all spelled out, 321buydown.com, because that temporary rate buy down program works differently than the buy down I was talking about just before the break, where it's a permanent buy down. And actually, you don't lose any of that money if you refinance earlier, because a 321 buy down is not really an interest rate reduction strategy. It's a payment subsidy. So what happens with that buy down is the seller makes up the difference in the monthly payment from, 7% to 4% for the first year, 7 to 5 the second, 7 to 6 the third, and that money gets put into an escrow account. So each month when you make your payment, the bank takes some from you and some from that account. So your rate is always 7 and it's amortized at 7, but you're paying based on 4 in that instance. So if you refinance early or you sell the house early, your payoff is reduced by whatever's in that subsidy escrow account. So I know it gets a little confusing, but it's a really, really good loan program for somebody who's not banking on having to refinance. You've got the ability to reduce your payment to the equivalent of a 3% reduction in interest rate, and not 3% of the interest rate. 7 becomes 4. That's a huge, huge difference in payment. So to answer your question, no, you can refinance anytime during that adjustment period with the 321 buy down. And anybody, if I confused you, go to 321buydown.com and see that little explainer video. It might make more sense to you. And there's a calculator there too. You can check it out and see if it makes sense for your scenario. So brilliant question. Hey, Jen, throw me another.
Lydia sent us a question. We just got hit with back taxes. Can we pay these off with a refinance? We might as well pay off some other bills too. Will this work with the special refi program?
Hey, Lydia. In most cases, you can. We would need to make sure that that's not a tax lien and that there's enough equity in the property to pay it off. But as long as your credit score hasn't suffered and you still meet the guidelines, you should be okay. But I would love to have a deeper conversation with you about it just to be sure. But you should be able to pay those back taxes off, especially if it's just a tax notice and it's not a tax judgment or a tax lien. There's different protocol for the paperwork and how to approach that. So, and you don't want your credit affected by it. And guys, I guess while we're talking about that, let me throw this out there. If there's trouble on the horizon and you think you're going to need that equity for whatever reason, or an opportunity, you're going to take the equity and go buy an opportunity with it, invest it somewhere. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until you suffer the credit challenge that's going to now disqualify you from the program. Or if you think property values are going down, don't wait and then you don't have enough equity. And I'm not encouraging people to take their equity and go willy-nilly and do silly things with it, but people tap equity for so many reasons: to help their children buy a home, for investment opportunities, to offset medical expenses. We had a gentleman do a reverse mortgage because he had a car accident and there was a judgment against him. I think that was a caller on the show. So if you're going to need it, don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until you lose the job or miss that payment, or you won't, in many instances, have access to it. So I don't want to go off on that tangent. I just wanted to throw that out there. So, okay, Jen, let's have another question.
Gordon sent us this one. I read an article about porting a mortgage. It said my current mortgage and interest rate can be transferred to a new property. Is this really a thing? Can you explain how it works?
Hey, that's a great question. It's super, super confusing. At least once a year, that article makes its rounds on the internet. So porting is a thing, sadly not in the U.S. In Canada and in some European countries, you can port your mortgage. You can take your loan balance and your interest rate and move it from property A to property B. In the States, you're going to have to sell your property, lose that low interest rate, and use one of the creative strategies to get the best possible rate on the next property. So I saw the article too. If you look underneath, it's from Forbes UK, I think is where it was published originally. But no, porting is a thing. I consult with a lot of mortgage bankers in Canada and they love it. It's a brilliant opportunity. Maybe it'll catch on here sometime. For right now, that's going to be north of the border or across the pond. So I appreciate that question. Hey, Jen, throw me another one.
Here's a question from Tammy. What happens to our plans for a refinance if prices go down? Won't this hurt our chances from an equity standpoint?
Hey, Tammy, that's exactly what I was just talking about. Don't wait if you think prices are going to go down because, yes, the refinance is going to be capped at a certain percentage of your equity. And you know what? Let me back all the way up. Somebody had a question earlier in the show about buying now and waiting until later to refi. Well, if you buy now and you put 5% down and property values slip a little bit, 5%, let's say, now you owe 100% on your property. Are you going to do a 100% refinance? In most instances, no. Unless it's a rate reduction, streamline, FHA, or VA loan, that's not even going to be an option. So yes, the equity position in a property is key, one of the largest components to the underwriting decision when looking at a refinance. So, and that's another thing, guys, equity lines versus the rec refi. If you take an equity line, that can be closed against your will if your equity position is reduced by a declining market. And if you think I'm exaggerating, I saw a lot of that happen in the housing crash of, 08 to about 10 or 12. People who had big equity lines with no money on them, those were greatly reduced or closed because the market was in decline. So great question. Kudos to you for thinking that far ahead. But yes, it will negatively impact your ability to do a refinance. So that's a good one. Hey, Jen, let's get another question in.
Here's one from Nate. If I've been turned down for an equity line, can I still apply for a rec refinance? Will the bank's denial hurt my chances?
Hey, Nate, great question. And this one gets people super, super concerned a lot of times. Let's say for a hypothetical conversation, you come to us and we do the rec refinance. When we pull your credit for the credit evaluation, we're going to see on there that there was an inquiry from the bank, but we're not going to know how that dispositioned. Maybe you didn't like the equity line. It's not going to show credit inquiry, loan denied on your credit report. So it should not have a negative impact as long as your score is still within the criteria to be approved, then you should be okay. And to answer your question, the rec refi, because of the way the debt to income is calculated versus the way the debt to income is calculated on an equity line, a lot of times people who have their application denied for an equity line do indeed qualify for a rec refi. So not only should you be okay, I would encourage you to take the necessary steps to see if you can make that happen. So brilliant question. I appreciate you bringing that one up because I don't talk enough about that. That's a great one. And you can get more info at recrefi.com, recrefi.com. So, hey, Jen, can you no, she's waving me off. She's waving me off and bringing the music up in my ear. Oh, man, that was quick. Guys, you hear the music? You know what that means? We have wrapped up another week right here at the Mr. Mortgage Show. Man, time flies when I got the headphones on. I have so much fun doing the show for you each week. Guys, if you need us during the week, check out MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. MrMortgageRadio.com if you need us during the week. Otherwise, Jen and I will be back next week right here. Same time, same station. Guys, have an amazing week. Be good.
That's a wrap. Join Mark Eitel next week for more thrilling, edge-of-your-seat discussions about real estate and mortgages right here on The Mr. Mortgage Show.